Welcome to the Steve Stine Guitar Podcast, brought to you by GuitarZoom.com. If you want to improve your guitar playing, keep listening. If you want to improve even faster, go to GuitarZoom.com, where you'll find all of Steve's premium courses, masterclasses, and memberships that'll help you quickly and easily improve your playing. Now here's your host, Steve Stine.
All right, now we've learned how to play bar chords on the 6th string and the 5th string. So the next thing we want to talk about is another kind of chord, which we refer to as a power chord. Now, a power chord is a different kind of chord because it's kind of it's a guitar-only style chord. Like, you don't really hear piano players talking about a power chord or something like that. And basically what it is because the guitar is built the way it is and tuned the way it is, what we can do is take a bar chord, let's say a 6-string bar chord, for instance, right? So let's say I go to G, okay? And there's G major, and there's G minor. And let's say I just wanted to play a power chord. What a power chord is not allowing the chord to sound major or minor. And if you think about it, that transition happens right here on the 3rd string, right? Because that's where the major or the minor sound comes from. So with a power chord, we don't want to strum this 3rd string and get the major sound or the minor sound. We don't want either one of those things. So what we do is instead, we don't strum it. And as a result of that, we don't strum any of the other strings underneath it either. We just strum the top 2 or 3 strings. Now, let me show you and explain to you why I'm saying 2 or 3 strings. So if I just play this and this and this, okay, those 3 right there, what I'm playing is G, and then here, this is D, and this is called the 5th of the chord. And again, don't worry about that if you don't know, but here's the big one. This is G again. So we're actually playing octaves of G when we play a bar chord or even a power chord. So when you play a power chord, the trick is you only want to hit the top 2 or 3 strings. Now, when I say that, the reason is because the fact that you have 2 Gs, the octaves of G, is redundant. So you don't really need the 4th string in this to get the sound of the power chord. If you really like having the 3 strings, the sound of the 3 strings together, that's okay. Then you strum all 3 of those. But again, if you look at it from the real world perspective, sometimes when you strum, you might only hit 2 strings, even though you're trying to hit 3, right? And that's okay. You're going to get a power chord sound anyway. So if you try and hit 2 and you wind up hitting 3 strings, that's a nice safe zone to be in, okay? The way to protect yourself from hitting any other strings is instead of just being careful, which is a valid thing for sure, just trying to hit the top strings. But the other thing that you can do is you can take the bar part of your finger, instead of pressing on the strings like you did with a bar chord, you're simply going to touch those bottom 3 strings, bottom meaning toward the floor here, so they get a scratching sound, like we did when we were practicing. So if I was to strum like this and get these 3 strings working and get these strings scratching, if I was to strum too far by accident, you're not going to hear the sound of those chords or those strings anyway. They're going to be deadened out, you see? So that's a nice safety feature that's built in that you can do. So when you're playing power chords, you're going to hit the strings that you want. You're going to deaden out the strings that you don't want. And then again, you can decide what you want to do from there.
If you're enjoying this episode and you'd like to support the podcast, go to GuitarZoom.com and consider becoming a premium member. There are 3 memberships to choose from. VIP, which gives you instant access to a library of short but powerful courses as well as new bite-sized lessons each month. There's also Play Songs that gives you step-by-step lessons so you can learn to play your favorite songs fast. And finally, there's Masterclass, university-level training on everything from soloing to music theory, from blues to home recording. For more info about these memberships and all the premium courses available to you, go to GuitarZoom.com. Now back to the podcast.
Now, because we're essentially only needing 2 strings, some people like to play their power chords with 3 fingers like this, and some people like to play their power chord with simply 2 fingers and deaden out the 4th string as well. And again, there is no right or wrong to this. I'm just showing you the different ways that you can play them. So even though you might look at a piece of sheet music or something like that, and it says power chords are always written as 5, like A5, D5, G5, C5, that sort of thing. And even though the notation or whatever it is that you're reading might show you, to play it with 3 fingers or something, just understand for the rest of your life that it's okay if you play it with only 2 fingers or, 3 fingers if it only shows 2 fingers. It's more about comfort, right? It's more about what feels comfortable for you when you make the chord. And then when you strum it, what you're able to work with. Now, for me, I don't even really pay attention anymore. Sometimes I make them with 3 fingers. Sometimes I make them with 2 fingers. It just sort of depends. Heck, sometimes I'll even make a power chord with my first and my pinky like this. I mean, that's a little bit different too, right? So I just want you to understand that, again, there's so much in the guitar that is what I would consider a gray area, where it really comes down to your ability to execute and execute comfortably. That's what you're most concerned with. The bottom line is the power chord now gives you a sound that does not sound major and it does not sound minor, okay? And it's a really common sound that we use on guitar. There's 2 reasons we use a power chord. Number 1, because the song actually uses power chords, okay? And number 2, when we're not sure if the chord is major or minor, we could simply play a power chord over the top for the time being until maybe we figure out if it's really major or minor. But let's say, you see somebody playing or you're learning a song by ear or you're trying to figure out a song and it says F sharp whatever, right? And you don't know, or maybe it's ambiguous and you're not really sure whether it's major or minor. Like I have a lot of jazz students that used to do that just to get through their jazz rehearsals until they had time to figure out exactly what was going on, just to kind of lead through. You can kind of use it as a cheater to figure it out, but the power chord has been, a prominent chord for guitar players since the birth of the blues. So, blues and rock and, you think the Stones and the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and all these sorts of things. The power chord is very much an electric style chord, but we do use it on the acoustic side as well. And I want you to be aware of that. Okay. So that's what a power chord is. Now, a power chord moves around just like a bar chord does. We can go anywhere we want. And again, if I go to G, it's going to be called G5, whether I play it with 2 fingers or 3 fingers, whether I strum 2 strings or 3 strings, it's still G5, A5, B5, C5, and so on, okay? So that's how you play a 6th string power chord. Next time on the Steve Stine Guitar Podcast. Okay, here's a really fun kind of descending bass line where you're going to keep the chord constant, but you're changing the bass notes around it. And the example is going to be based off a Cure song called Love Song. And what I'm doing here is I'm starting with C minor. And basically my pattern is, although you can adjust this, I'm going to go bass note, and then I'm going to go to the 2nd and 3rd strings. So I'm plucking bass, treble, bass, treble, treble. So it looks like this. But again, you can adjust that however you like to. Hey, Steve Stine here from GuitarZoom.com, and thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, can I ask you a favor? Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Your feedback means more to me than you'll ever know. And be sure to check out my YouTube channels where you'll find over 1,000 videos to help you with your guitar playing. Thanks again for listening. Stay positive, keep playing, and keep having fun.
If you'd like some help with your guitar playing but you're not sure how to get started, go to GuitarZoom.com and look for the Help Me Choose survey. By answering a few simple questions, you'll get Steve's personal recommendation of the perfect course for you. All this and more is available for you at GuitarZoom.com.